This is MTG Burgeoning, and in this video we will showcase the contents of Black Color Support Pack number 3 of our Jumpstart Commander Cube. If you haven't been following along or are new to the channel, look in the description of this video for links to the primer video for this series, its playlist, as well as a list of the cards featured in this video. As previously showcased during the primer video for this series, these are the types of cards you can expect to see in every color support pack. Now, with the prologue coming to an end, let's start spotlighting some black support cards, beginning with some basic swamps. We've got 3 basic swamps to kick off our color support pack. And on the tail end of that presentation, we have 3 more basic swamps, but this one is of the snowy variety. 3 snow-covered swamps to pair with our 3 regular swamps to give us a grand total of 6 basic swamps. Next up is going to be our Thriving card, and of course, since we're in black, that will be Thriving More. This enters the battlefield tapped, and when it does, we choose a color other than black. We can tap this land to add 1 black mana, or 1 mana of the chosen color to our mana pool. Next up is going to be our utility land and our second consecutive non-basic land, and here that's going to be Hive of the Eye Tyrant. If we control 2 or more other lands, Hive of the Eye Tyrant enters the battlefield tapped. So what we really want to do is make sure we get this card in our opening hand so we can play it untapped and not lose any potential tempo. We can tap this bad boy for 1 black mana, or we can pay 3 in a black mana, and until end of turn, Hive of the Eye Tyrant becomes a 3/3 black beholder creature with menace, and whenever this creature attacks, we exile target card from defending player's graveyard, and this is still a land. So note that this card, when it's in its creature form, does not have to deal combat damage in order to exile a card from defending player's graveyard. A great way to hose any potential graveyard synergies or shenanigans going on, because it's not like Commander players like to play with their graveyards, right? And the addition of evasion is a nice feature so that we don't lose the card to combat. Having menace, meaning, the creature must be blocked with at least 2 creatures, that gives us a chance to make sure that if we really need that card removed from a defending player's graveyard, we have a chance that the creature itself, as Hive of the Eye Tyrant would be as the 3/3, will not die in combat. That is, of course, if our opponents only have 1 creature on their side of the battlefield, we can slide in and know that it won't get blocked. Well, we still run the risk of any kind of instant speed removals that say, destroy target creature, but we do prevent any of the destroy target non-land permanent, those types of spells, because even in its creature form, Hive of the Eye Tyrant is still a land. All right, our next card is our MDFC. That's our modal double face card. Spell on the front, land on the back. And in our third, this is Black Color Support Pack number 3, we have Pelaka Predation, a sorcery for 2 and 1 black mana. Target opponent reveals their hand. That's right, every single player gets to see their hand. We choose a card from it with converted mana cost 3 or greater, and that player discards that card. In Commander, that could be a good thing for us, or that could be an even better thing for the player. If that player is working with graveyard shenanigans and maybe a Reanimator deck, maybe we don't want to cast Pelaka Predation and put one of those sweet cards into their graveyard. Instead, we could opt to play this for the backside, which is Pelaka Caverns, a land that comes into play tapped, and we can tap it to add 1 black mana to our mana pool. Since this MDFC does have a land on its backside, we're going to slam that baby up there with the rest of our lands. All right, next card up in order is our Planeswalker card of the pack. And here we have Ob Nixilis Reignited, a Planeswalker that enters the battlefield with 5 loyalty counters for 3 and 2 black mana. That is a fantastic return of loyalty counters for the number of mana invested. 1 mana per 1 loyalty counter. We can +1 OB here to draw a card and lose 1 life. We don't mind losing 1 life. We start the game with 40. Let's make sure we use our life total as a resource. We can -3 this version of Ob Nixilis to destroy target creature. And if we're lucky enough to have this Planeswalker on our side of the battlefield long enough, we can take 8 loyalty counters off of Ob Nixilis Reignited and have target opponent get an emblem with, whenever a player draws a card, you lose 2 life. At the moment of this video's creation, there is no way to interact with emblems in Magic. Once an emblem is on the battlefield, it's there to stay until that player is gone or the game ends. Hopefully at the hands of Ob Nixilis Reignited. All right, our next card is our creature modifier. That's either going to be an aura or an equipment. And here in color support pack number 3 of the black variety, it's an aura called Gift of Doom. It is a mana value of 4 and 1 black mana, or maybe a reduction in that cost. Let's read on. Enchanted creature has death touch and is indestructible. And it has the morph ability. So instead of paying 4 and a black mana to cast this as an aura, we can pay 3 generic mana and cast this card face down as a 2/2 creature. Then we can pay its morph cost, sacrifice another creature, to flip it up. And when we flip it face up, when Gift of Doom is turned face up, we may attach it to a creature. So we could put this into play in installments. Instead of paying the 4 and 1 black mana in one shot to give the equipped creature death touch and indestructible, let's invest 3 mana, 3 generic mana, make it a 2/2 creature, and then we can just sacrifice another creature to put this, to turn this card face up, and then put it on to target creature. Well, most likely we're going to put it onto our creature, of course. Note that it says we may attach it to a creature. That means that it's not targeting that creature. So if for some reason one of our creatures has something like, I don't know, like a Shroud ability, maybe it has a Lightning Greaves giving it haste and Shroud, we could turn Gift of Doom face up, and then we can attach it to a creature. Because we're not targeting that creature, we can attack it. We can attach it to the creature that has Lightning Greaves on it, and suddenly it's a death-touching, hasty, hex-proofing, indestructible creature. Gift of Doom has a lot of versatility for the way in which we can get it onto our side of the battlefield, and even if we were to just straight hard cast it for 4 and 1 black mana, let's face it, we're not going to be able to attach that onto a creature that has Shroud. We're only going to be able to do that if we are able to attach it to a creature as it gets turned face up from its morph ability. Our next card is going to be our Color Strength spell, and if there's one thing Black loves to do, it loves to drain life from its opponents and then give that life to the wielder of the spell. For that, I present to you X Sanguinates, X and 2 black mana at sorcery speed. Each opponent loses X life, and then we gain life equal to the life lost this way. We'll jam 6 mana into X and cast a total and spend a total of 8 mana. If we have 3 opponents, each one of them, they're losing 6 life, and we are gaining 18 life as a result. If we hold on to that card long enough throughout the game, and we have enough mana, and there's been enough life total attrition, we could look at Exsanguinate as a way in which to close out the game. All right, our next cards are going to be our spot and our mass removal and disruption spells. And for our first spot removal spell, we have Heartless Act. 1 and 1 black at instant speed, we choose one of the following 2 modes. Either we destroy target creature with no counters on it, or we remove up to 3 counters from target creature. I think more often than not, we're just going to straight up destroy target creature with no counters on it. However, if there's any creatures out there that are getting a little out of control with any keyword counter abilities or +1/+1 counters, well, then maybe we choose to remove those +1/+1 counters from that creature or those keyword ability counters instead. Our next spot removal spell, it is Pile On. At instant speed, we pay 3 and 1 black mana. This spell has the Convoke mechanic, which means that our creatures can help us cast this spell. As we are tapping mana to cast this spell, as we are preparing to cast the spell, we can add 1 generic mana or 1 mana of that creature's color for each creature we tap. So we could, in effect, cast this spell just by tapping 4 creatures, as long as one of them has black in its color identity. And when we do cast this spell, we destroy target creature or planeswalker, and then we get to Surveil 2. To Surveil 2, we look at the top 2 cards of our library, and we may put any number of them into our graveyard or on top of our library in any order we so choose. And that is what we're doing. We're going to make sure that we get rid of a target creature, we get rid of it, or we get rid of a target planeswalker, and we set up our next draw. Or if we are the ones committing graveyard shenanigery, I'm going to just roll with that being a word because, at MTG Burgeoning, we're always rewriting the dictionaries. If we're rolling with graveyard shenanigery, maybe we want to just surveil a couple of choice cards to our graveyard, and Pile On is going to help us do that. Our next couple cards are going to be our mass removal and mass disruption cards, and has been customary in the previous 2 iterations of these black support packs, and we're going to see it in this one and in packs 4 through 6. We are going to have a card that comes in that force sacrifices a sacrifice for every player at the table. And in this color support pack, it's Demon's Disciple, a 3/1 human cleric for 2/1 black mana. When Demon's Disciple ETBs, each player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker. We most likely will be sacrificing Demon's Disciple because a 3/1 for 3 mana is not something that we are going to long to miss. However, I'm not so sure that the sacrificed creature or planeswalker on our opponent's side of the battlefield, I'm not sure that those opponents are going to be able to say the same thing. And lastly, our last mass removal spell for this support pack video, it is Decree of Pain, a 6 and 2 black mana at sorcery speed, simply to destroy all creatures. They cannot be regenerated, and we draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. This could lead to a whole heck of a lot of cards being drawn, particularly if we're sitting down at a full complement of opponents at the commander table. We can also choose to cycle this card if we so choose by paying 3 and 2 black mana, discarding Decree of Pain, and then drawing a card. If we do it this way, then all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Now, granted, we're not going to be able to draw the number of cards that hard-casting Decree of Pain would allow us to do if we paid the 6 and 2 black mana. Well, maybe we just don't have the 8 mana right now, and some opponent is really starting to ramp up their side of the battlefield with a massive creature token army. Well, then let's just cycle it, get a card in our hand, and give all creatures -2/-2 until end of turn. All right, our next card is going to be our defense or our hate card, or our hate card or defense card. Either way, this card is going to be hated by our opponents, and that is Hypnotic Spectre, a 2/2 Spectre with flying for 1 and 2 black mana. Whenever Hypnotic Spectre deals damage to an opponent, that player discards a card at random. This is old school. This is going back to before the 2000s. Hypnotic Spectre back in the day was one of the absolute most feared and hated cards in all of Magic the Gathering. For all of the old school players, and I'm talking 30 years old school players, back when, young younglings, you never wanted Hypnotic Spectre coming at you because you never wanted to discard a card at random. Sometimes it's just a land, sometimes it was a Sarah Angel, sometimes it was just a bunk artifact, other times it was a Shivan Dragon. You didn't want to have those cards discarded, but Hypnotic Spectre did not care, and neither did the player who cast it, put it onto their side of the battlefield, and then mercilessly attacked us with it. All right, our next card is our Resource Advancement card, and in this third black color support pack, that is going to be Nezumi Grave Robber. For 1 and 1 black mana, we get a 2/1 Rat Rogue, and it has an activated ability. We can pay 1 and 1 black mana to exile target card in an opponent's graveyard. If that graveyard has no cards, instead, we flip Nezumi Grave Robber. So you follow me here? We're going to get Nezumi out into play, hopefully at turn 2, and then we're going to just pick an opponent that doesn't have any cards in their graveyard. We're going to pay 1 and a black to exile a card from their graveyard, but they don't have any cards in their graveyard, so we're going to get to flip Nezumi Grave Robber, and now we have a 4/2 Night Eyes the Desecrator, a legendary rat wizard, that if we pay 4 and a black mana, we can put target creature card in a graveyard into play under our control. Note the text on that, folks. Put target creature card in a graveyard into play under our control. It doesn't have to be our graveyard. It doesn't have to be an opponent's graveyard. It's any graveyard. Any creature that we think is the best creature that would look on our side of the battlefield, we're going to pay 4 and 1 black mana, and we're going to grab that creature and slap it right down on our side of the battlefield. Also note that this ability with Night Eyes is not an ability that has the dreaded line of text of activate only as a sorcery. We can do that at instant speed, so it means we can do it during an opponent's turn, during an opponent's end step, whatever. And if we end up getting enough mana that we can do it twice, watch out, baby. Night Eyes the Desecrator is going to be a very powerful addition, not just to this black support pack, but to any commander deck that puts that into their Jumpstart command. Any Jumpstart commander deck that has this pack join in on the black color identity goodness. All right, next up is our combat enhancement card. And for this pack, it is Nighthawk Scavenger, a vampire rogue with flying, death touch, and lifelink for 1 and 2 black mana. It has a power of 1+ star and a toughness of 3. So let's see what the plus star means. Nighthawk Scavenger's power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among cards in our opponent's graveyards. Boy, oh boy, can you imagine the number of different card types that we can have in our opponent's sides of other graveyards? Lands, creatures, artifacts, planeswalkers, instants, sorceries. That's only 6. We'll stop it there because those are very likely to be in our opponent's graveyards. So for the overall investment of just 3 mana, we're going to end up with a 7/3 flying, death-touching lifelinker, if at least 6 of those card types, and that's not even all of the card types. Nighthawk Scavenger is an unbelievable value for the amount of mana spent on it, that it almost screams out for an opponent to use one of their spot removal spells to get rid of it. And if they do, that's fantastic for us because we only invested 3 black mana, and that'll be 1 less spot removal spell that that opponent can use on one of our stronger creatures or our commander. All right, this is the end of the road here for color support pack number 3 of the black variety. It is our iconic creature type, and in black, that creature type is Demon, and our Demon in this pack, it is Ob Nixilis Unshackled. That's right, we're going double OB, folks. We got OB Reignited, we got OB Unshackled. This is the OB color support pack. We have a 4/4 flying trampling demon for 4 and 2 black mana. Whenever an opponent searches their library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. How would you like to get this card out way ahead of curve and then see your opponent try to play an Evolving Wilds or maybe a Terramorphic Expanse or something like that? Ha ha. Ha 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 ha. And whenever another creature dies, we put a +1/+1 counter on Ob Nixilis Unshackled. Note that's whenever another creature dies. It doesn't have to be one of our creatures. It doesn't have to be one of our opponent's creatures. It doesn't have to be a non-token creature. Any creature from any battlefield dying will cause us to put a +1/+1 counter on this flying, trampling demon, and at some point in time, it's going to be big enough to send into combat and potentially one-shot an opponent as we move closer and closer to claiming victory. All right, there you have it, MTG BC. We have showcased the contents of Black Color Support Pack number 3 of our Jumpstart Commander Cube. Let me know your thoughts about these cards in the comments section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.